Good morning, friends and family of Oakland Cemetery. Today's the April the 16th, 2024, and today, or last night, we had a couple thunderstorms come through, and a lot of rain came down. The grass is kind of wet. I still need to cut about 40% of the cemetery, but before I start, I need to pick up a lot of pine cones and let the grass dry a little bit. But today I want to try to show you some of these lawnmower issues that I've had. I was able to pick these lawnmowers up from Mr. Everett at a real reasonable price. He was aware of what the problem was, and he told me. Now what I've done here, I've done 3 of these lawnmowers the same way. Now, it's not to sit here and criticize any one of these manufacturers, okay? This is a normal occurring problem that occurs on a lot of these engines, and it's wear and tear, okay? And so what I'm going to try to show you here is at least one problem and how I resolved it at a very minimum price and a good little hack. Alright, if your lawnmower does this, okay. Sometimes it won't even do that. Sometimes it'll just click. But what I found is a compression relief valve on the camshaft. And so several things you can do. Some people think it's a starter. Some people think it's the relay, starter relay. Some think it's the battery. Okay, there are several things I did. Number one, you can pull the spark plug out, and if the motor turns freely, you pretty well know it can be a compression problem. And that'll eliminate your relay and maybe your battery. Okay. Now, I've went through all these problems. I've even hooked the batteries up in series and put 24 volts to it to try to increase the power. But the other thing you can do is also, now I have this disassembled at the top, but you can take and rotate your motor backwards, grab it up here. You can rotate it backwards and get the to where it stops. See how much I'm turning it now. Okay, just show you. It may take a couple tries. But you can see, sometimes you can get it to start, sometimes you can rotate it back 2 or 3 times. Alright, this one I've already done, so it might be hard to see, but see, I've already drilled into the removed the cylinder head, and I drilled into the cylinder head all the way in to the compression chamber. I used a 1/8 pipe, 6 inches long, and then I put a solenoid valve on the outside of it. Unfortunately, the first solenoid valve I used had a screw in the center of it. It had a screw here. This is a newer one. So this one I'm going to go ahead and put on today, this morning. But I did want to show you that. Now, here's the camshaft. Alright, it's hard, might be hard to see, but there's a dog right here. motor rotates, the centrifugal force from this dog on this cam comes up and hits the exhaust valve and gives a little bit more relief to relieve the compression to start it. Okay, now if this is broke off into your engine, now what I'm doing here is not a good remedy, but so far, you know, I haven't had any. I've done 3 motors this way. Okay, now you got to disassemble the whole motor from the bottom, take the motor off, take the motor apart, and do it. Okay, but I don't know how long. I've done one of them that way. It's a lot of labor, and I can understand why a lawnmower shop may not do this for people. This is not a good remedy. It's not recommended by the manufacturer. But you can understand. So what I'm going to do is I got pictures of where I drilled the cylinder head, a couple pictures, and I'm going to post it with this video. I don't have the video for drilling. I didn't take a video of me drilling the cylinder head, but if this doesn't pan out, and then what I'm going to do, maybe you might understand what a compression relief is. On some of the larger chainsaws, there is a little compression relief that you pull in order to relieve some of the compression inside the compression chamber. If you ever had one kick back, I mean, it can almost break your daggone hand. But I'm going to go ahead and change this out. And the nice thing about this is this relay is purchased from a truck air horn. So it's a good automotive. It's a 12 volt and it's a 1/8 with a 1/4 inch discharge. And I hook one side up to the starter, okay, to the starter wire. So when you turn your switch on, you turn your key to start, this switch is open and it allows the air to flow through it. When you let go, it closes. So sometimes you might see a little backfire. You may and may not. Sometimes when you cut it off, there might be a little fuel in the chamber and you may hear a little backfire. But I take one, like I said, and I go to the starter, and the other one I go ahead and make up a ground. But I'm going to go ahead and change this out, and then I'm going to try to explain another issue that I may have. Alright, man, thank you for watching this one. Go ahead and shut out. Okay, I've got the solenoid valve on. I've started it a few times to make sure it would run alright, and it works. So, but one thing I do want to caution you about is to use your conduit. Get you some conduit and run it through, because you don't want your wires to chafe from vibration. What I've learned from taking a lot of these lawnmowers apart is that I found that a lot of wires have been chafed, and that could have been the problem on some of them. But troubleshooting them is another thing. The manufacturers do what they can, but you need to do an inspection a lot on these mowers to see if your wires are chafing. So I'm going to crank it up, and then I'm going to do a side view here to show you on some of the issues I had and how I accomplished this. you see me reaching down and choking it. But other than that, I got a little hunting issue. But you can see it'll start on its own and it turns really good and free. So when you turn the key, the valve is open. When you let off the key, the valve closes. So it's kind of a timing thing. But I've cut with it for 2.5 days. It works fine. What I did do when I cut with it, you see I got the deck on the highest it will go. I don't have any scalp wheels on here, and I plan on putting some of them on during the week. The problem without scalp wheels is do a lot of damage, okay? So what I'm going to do is change the camera view and see if I can't show you some of the how I accomplished this. Okay, remember I used a 1/8 pipe, 6 inches long. I drilled in through the cylinder head. What you have to watch out for is that you don't get interfere with the push rod. Alright, also when you take it apart, you're going to find one push rod is different than the other. You can of the material composition, so you want to separate it. And as well, on the end of the valve stem there's caps. But right here is where the bolt is for the cylinder head. So you can see, you know, about where I drilled. And that's probably how far I drilled. Okay, and then on the side of the cylinder head where this pipe is, there's kind of a boss up here. And what I did, I took a carbide burr and I flattened it out what I could, and then I center punched it. You got to eyeball it. And then I went ahead and I drilled a 1/8 hole to get started. Your 1/8 drill normally isn't going to be long enough to go in, but you know, you can step it up. You can step it up, and then get you a pilot hole in there, and go ahead and drill it your drill tap size for your 1/8 pipe. The other thing is, you can see how long that is. Well, the first time I did it, the 1/8 tap I had barely got in there. It stuck about, it was down in this hole. And so what I did, I ended up purchasing, I found a couple on eBay for like $11 that were, I think, 4 to 6 inches long, and that really worked very well. The other thing is, you know, this here pipe is going to be bigger than your tap drill size. So you know, once you get your tap, get your hole tapped out, measure this, go ahead and put your hole in there to where you can get this pipe with clearance in there. And there was 2 different sealants that I used. The first one I did, I used a seal-all. It's in a yellow tube. I think Advanced Auto Part has it. Now I've used it several times and it works very well. I let it sit 24 hours before I did anything with it. And then the other thing, JB Weld had a muffler sealing compound, and that's what I used on this one here. So you can take your time and do it and see what happens. The other thing I want to add in this video is this valve here off the carburetor. What happens is sometimes people end up getting gas in their oil, and what happens, this valve is leaking by. And what happens when you turn your key off, the valve has an interlock and it goes up and it shuts off the gas. When you turn it on, the valve goes down and lets the gas flow freely. And sometimes you can take this valve out and work it up and down. It may work, but sometimes it just electrically burns out. And so what I'm going to do is take one of these valves and show you in this video here. Okay, I have an older carburetor and I took it off. Now you can see, you know, it screws into here. You got to watch it. There's a washer on the bottom. sometimes this holds the bowl line. And so if it holds the bowl line where you can see these two screws here, then you may have a problem, because normally this gasket's going to go bad. But what I'm going to show you here is, here's the valve. This valve is stuck. And so what I do is I take a hacksaw and I cut this valve seat off, or valve stem right off. I just take and cut that off, and you bypassed it now. And also these have a notch in the bottom here, so you can only put the wire in one way. And so you can, I normally, if I cut the valve stem off, I leave it unplugged and I tape up the wire end. But here's what you need to do. Alright, if you cut the valve stem off and put it on, you want to go ahead and put your inline shutoff valve. Put it on your tank side, and then your filter. So even if you have to do your carburetor repair or change your filter, you can cut the gas off. So at the end of the day, when you're done using your lawnmower and you have this cut off, you want to cut this valve off and let it run out of gas. Okay? Because there again, if you're already getting gas into your oil, you're not accomplishing anything. So cut your valve off and let the lawnmower run out of gas. And then when you get ready to use it again, turn your valve on, wait a few minutes, and it should fire right up. So, but there's a couple other things I did here. If you'll notice over, I don't know if you can see it, but I overrode the safety for the seat switch and then the reverse switch. I don't recommend that too much. I've already had these lawnmowers when I get off of it, jump in gear, and it's unsafe to do that. But when you're out here and you got thousands of stones and stuff like that, it's stuff you don't want to run over. I can't cut this thing off every time, and so I'm going to make an interlock, an external lock, so I can lock the shifter in place. It does have a spring on there, but all the vibration, maybe 1 out of 100, it might jump in gear. But thank you for watching the video. I hope this might help you on some of your issues. But when you got a lot of lawnmowers and they break down, you got to do a field repair, this is how I do it.